So I'm a BE Future Youth Committee member, Esha Nayar, and this morning I'm going to be speaking to Basketball England's newest board member, Brandie Deignan, for International Women's Day. So Brandie, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, Isha. How are you? Lovely to
I'm
see
good,
you.
thanks. Yeah, good to speak to you. Can you just for the people, can you just tell me like what your involvement is with Basketball England at the moment?
Yeah, so I've been involved in Basketball England since beginning of this year, 2024, and I am one of the non-exec directors. I'm an independent non-exec director, and I have special remit for ED&I. So really excited about International Women's Day and really excited about our conversation to follow. Thank you for having me, Isha.
No worries. This year's theme for International Women's Day is Inspire Inclusion. Just to start straight away. How has the journey through your professional career helped to shape your perspective on female empowerment, especially in the context of this year's theme, which is Inspire Inclusion?
So that's a really interesting question. Thank you. And I'm actually, before I start, I've got to say I'm actually very grateful for my personal career journey because all the challenges and opportunities that I had has allowed me to actually build resilience and take control of my own career. And actually, it's also allowed me to create my own model of excellence and empowerment. But the fact of the matter does remain that gender prejudice is a very old prejudice, right? It's been going on for a long time. Um, but interestingly, it just keeps appearing and reappearing and it persists. I know it was there at the start of my career. I know gender prejudice was there in the middle of my career, and I know it still is around. So it just doesn't seem to shift, I guess, fast enough. But there are some structural and societal hurdles that I feel perhaps slows us down or stops us from getting there because the way we're designed as a society, the way we approach things, the way we discover things, the way we're led in organizations and in society, it's all fronted by men. And to break this cycle, I think the standard of which most things are designed, are presented, are led has just got to be broken down and we've got to start all over again. But unless we change that kaleidoscope, I think we're going to have this challenge that we always have. Because today, globally, believe it or not, it's an equal world from a gender split. There's 49.7% of women in the world. However, in every 100 men who lead, 30, just 30 women. I think it's moved to 36 or something ridiculous like that. So there's a huge gap. And if we just want to bring it to the UK, if we look at the FTSE 100 companies, these are our top organizations in the UK. The stats are ridiculous from a leadership, a gender leadership perspective, because in 2024, there is only 10 female CEOs in the FTSE. 2022 and 2021, it kind of stayed at 9. Between 2016 to 2019, it was 6. It just isn't moving. If you break it down to women of color, it's 0, and so it just, for myself, having experienced the some call it the power, but the enjoyment and the horror of being the first of many things, it's a very lonely place to be. And so for me, Inspire Inclusion just means exactly what it is, because when everyone is included, I think everyone wins.
That's really insightful. Thank you for that. But so following up that, do you think that in your career that you faced any setbacks or hurdles, especially because the fact that you're a woman and especially a woman of color as well?
Plenty. Look, I kind of do this in decades. So in my teens, I was very feisty and I was very aware of the challenges that would face me even in my teens. But I actually kind of caused a little bit of good trouble in my teens from a gender perspective. In my 20s, I was very oblivious of everything that was happening around me. And I look back now, Isha, and there were some casual cruelties along the line. I would take jobs that nobody really wanted, or, just some real sort of looking back moments that you think, ouch, that was painful. In my 30s, it was really tough because that's when I got married. That's when I started having kids. The whole childcare issue became a real challenge. It was actually a very terribly difficult time to be a working mum. And I nearly jumped in my career in my 30s. In my 40s, I'm showing my age now, where I am now, it's just very wide-eyed. You know, there's a lot that still happens. But the difference now, Esha, is actually it's covert rather than overt. So it does happen. It just doesn't happen to my face. As for being a Black woman in that dimension, it adds a whole new layer to it. But you know, all I can say to this is that anytime a person is judged and labeled because of their race or ethnicity, that is wrong. But it doesn't actually stop us from changing the way things are. But it still happens. As a Black woman, you find that you have increased scrutiny. You find that there is no representation gap for you. You don't have, not many women of color would have role models, so sometimes we don't think we can do it. There are many microaggressions. There's lots of unconscious bias around, as we all know. We have living experiences. This isn't lived experience. This is living experiences every day that we live with. And it's just very difficult to then thrive as you lead, and it can be really challenging. It can also be a very lonely place, you know, at the top when you're trying to build your career. It can be extremely lonely. And so I think there is a lot more that we need to do. And look, all the challenges, like I said, that I face has made me stronger than I ever was.
Oh, thanks. No, it's just it's inspiring to see someone like yourself in such a powerful position. It's just inspiring to see. But so kind of following on to that, so through the course of your career, do you think you've seen like prejudices towards women? You think you've seen it like decrease and seen more support towards women in amplifying the female voice with it, like throughout the course of your career?
Well, thank you for your comments earlier. And it's very inspiring to see people like yourself, young people like yourself as well, Esha, taking
Oh, thanks.
the charge, and because you're the next generation. So thank you for that. In terms of amplifying of women's voices, well, I would like to see a bit more of that, because, you know, I think it was the World Economic Forum that said at the beginning of the year that if we follow on the trajectory that we're going on, it will take 132 years to close the gender gap. 132 years. Now, UN Women actually put a bit of stance on that, and they said with the current trajectory, it will take 286 years for the world to achieve gender equality. So this is scary stuff. We've got to do something about it. We've got to celebrate and support women. And that's why I get so excited about IWD, because we've got to carry on doing this. I know one day it'll be the norm, but for now, we've got to do it because of the years of gap that we've got. I think we've got to understand the burning platform that we have, and we have to have plans. I think all organizations have got to have plans to fix this. All families have got to have plans to fix this. All societies have got to have plans to fix this. All young people have got to have plans to fix this. All leaders right now have got to have plans to fix this. I think we've got to look at simple things like equal wages for equal work, which is still got a real gap. Can you believe it, in 2024? I think we've got to just go get behind the enhanced parental leave and policies. I know as a mother, it was really difficult for me to juggle the whole mum and career thing. We've got to look at it, and we've got to look at it for our partners as well from a parental leave policy. These are small things that we can do. I think we've got to focus on our ED&I plans. Most organisations have them. We've got to champion women at the top table so we can actually really shake and inspire change. I think we've got to stop occupational segregation. There are some occupations, Esha, where it is heavily led by men, heavily controlled by men. We've got to stop those occupational segregation. We've got to get women in there so that we can also pass the ladder on and get some people on to actually bridge this gap, because we're talking 286 years. That's a long time. I think we've got to really mentor young women, and young women like yourself have got to mentor experienced career women like myself as well, so we can have an insight from your lens and we can also pass on. I think we've got to do mentoring and reverse mentoring, more and more of that in organizations and in the society. I think we've got to recognize where we need to get to. And I think the power of belonging is powerful in organizations. We've got to make sure that women feel like they belong in organizations. Because, what happens is there is no limit to what we can accomplish. All there is, Esha, is just roadblocks, and we've got to remove those roadblocks so we can steam ahead a bit quicker.
No, yeah, it's great to hear that you're such an advocate for the youth voice, especially with what we're trying to do with the Future Youth Committee. But so what's the way do you think that organisations can look to help support inspiring females and really seek to amplify the female voice? How do you think they can work towards doing that?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that, and I'd be keen to hear your views on this one as well, because I think from organizations' perspective, most organizations will have a plan, wouldn't they? And actually, everyone can write a plan. I think it's about implementing and making sure that we celebrate women. Is the bit that people really struggle with. I think organizations really struggle with. Isha, I think it's as simple as representation. Because I think if you have females at the top of the table, they can shape this and they can bring it in. But I would like your view on this as well, actually. What do you think from your perspective? What are some of the things that you think women can, organizations can do to actually amplify our voices?
I think in the context of Basketball England specifically, I think, in my opinion, they do quite well in this, because they do take the women who are performing at the highest levels, inspiring people, and they do spotlight them, shine a light on them, things like this. Now what we're filming, it's good that they're seeking to do things like this, but I think that especially for other organizations, they just need to do more and more of it, because I think it's good for Basketball England that they do it, but a lot of other organizations don't do it, and they just need to really amplify the female voice, put inspiring people on the spotlight, give that representation to people, especially for young female girls, because maybe there is in some aspects some representation isn't there, and they just need to work towards really shining the light on that and increasing that representation.
You're spot on. Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with you. I'm glad we agree on something.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of just to follow on from that, what do you think Basketball England specifically, because whereas they are quite good in this topic, in this area, what do you think is one thing that they could do to start improving that, or maybe just to make it a little bit better? Yeah,
I think we've got to start with where we are now. So like you said, we're doing quite a fair bit, some really cool stuff for Basketball England. We've got to start there, not go back. So whatever we've done so far, we've got to make sure that it has been sustained. Because when you're starting from a place of strength, you're in a good spot, right? So let's sustain what we've done and start from there. And then I think we need to then build along, because no one's coming. The answer is within the organization, and no one's coming. And I think we've got to look through our clubs, players, coaching, officiating, admirers, enthusiasts of the game, everyone. And we've got to be very open about our ambitions, and we've got to really steam ahead, but making sure we've sustained what we've already done. And I think that, for me, is the key. That's the real key.
And do you think using people, not just players, but other people who are involved in other aspects? So I think that's a good way. Like yourself, I think that's a good way of amplifying the voice.
Oh, I agree. There's so many admirers, isn't there, of basketball, and I think anyone that admires basketball who has got an affinity to get us to where we need to has got to be involved in the movement. Absolutely, I agree.
Okay, so how you said that it's good to start on strengths. What do you think that Basketball England does well then, in terms of a female representation, things like that?
I think the strength is, for me, our strength is our opportunity, Isha, and our opportunity is future youths. Because look, in 10, 15 years' time, nobody around the table right now in basketball in a leadership role will be there. They may be there, but they will be going, they will be retiring, or whatever it is. They will be getting towards the end of it. So I think the trick is what we've started, and we've got to really nail it. And I think the answer is within our future youth, and we've got to really put some energy around it. And therein lies our key. And we've got to get to a stage, Esha, where everybody that sits around the table in Basketball England looks like the players that we have, feels like the players that we have, talks like the players that we have. When we get there, we will be quite something to try and catch, because we'll be really good.
Yeah. So what's one thing that you'd say to like young females especially? What's one thing you'd say to them, like who maybe just in terms of International Women's Day, what's one thing that you'd say to them just to inspire them?
I would say to every young female watching us or listening to us, because you can't listen to us as well,
yeah,
that all of you guys are influencers. You just don't know it. It is not about the people on TikTok that are getting the trending. You're all influencers. So you've got to influence yourself, and you've got to influence others. If we can get all young people acting, behaving, pioneering, and leading the charge as influencers, we will get this done in no time. Remember those numbers, 132 and 286. We've got no time. We've got to crack on. So you're all influencers. Be fearless and go after influence and whatever it is you're passionate about.
that was really inspiring. And just like just some final thoughts. What do you want to see Basketball England improve? Say maybe in this next 6 months. What's like one key thing that you really want to see them like work on?
Plenty. You're limiting me to one, but plenty. Look.
Okay, you can say more than one. Yeah.
I want females to have a louder voice, and I want us all to, this will amplify our voices. I want us all to start to get closer to representation as an organisation and as people around the sport and in the sport itself, so that can amplify our voices equally. I want us to start to hear more from our future youth and to empower them and to get them in the forefront like we're doing of what we do, because they are the future generation. I want us to just make sure that we understand that the future really depends on all of us. And, you know, a movement is just a group of people moving together, and we've all got to move together.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you so much, Esha, and happy International Women's Day to you.
Yeah, and you too as well.